All right, guys, I was on ESPN earlier today. A little show called The Chael Sonnen Show, which, by the way, my ego is directly related to how many of you watch that each week, so please check it out. But here was the topic. Won't be a surprise to you. Islam. And the question was, is Islam the best fighter in the world? Now, when George asked me that, I thought that he misspoke. I thought what the cue card in front of him was supposed to say, is Islam the #1 contender? Is he the next best thing in the world? No, that's not the question. The question was, is Islam the best in the world? Now, how would you answer that? Because what we saw Saturday was very special. A week ago, I didn't overly care about Islam. I would not deny him. I would not be a jerk or be rude, but I did not overly care. The match with Dariush was going to be real interesting just because they're both on such incredible runs. Dan Hooker's the one that largely got me into that match because Dan Hooker took Dariush. And then when Bobby Green got thrown in there, one thing that the UFC can do that nobody else has ever been able to do is they can change a card on short notice and give you something better. Nobody can do that. I've seen organizations go out of business. It's one of the joys of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Now, the reason I bring it to you is I look at Islam Makhachev 100% different. And again, it was never that I didn't know he was good. It was never that I didn't appreciate what he was doing. It was never that I wanted to hold him back and that I didn't think he belonged in main events and or world championship fights. I just wasn't interested. He didn't captivate me as a person. I thought that Islam had done a number of things wrong with his marketing. One of those things, I made the same mistake myself. One of those things is to pay credit to those who got you there. And I came up under Randy Couture and Dan Henderson just by example. Matt Lindley's very big names in the room with Evan. I wanted to pay them respect. I was the youngest of the group, and when I came through, I wanted to show these guys my appreciation for helping me arrive. But in the eyes of the fans, I'm now a knockoff. And I got put myself in the knockoff category, and I'm the one that did it. I let the whole world know these are my guys. I'm trying to be like them. And I bring that to you because Islam allowed this to happen with Khabib. I get why it happened. It was very respectful. But all the same, when I'm hearing Islam, all I'm hearing is knockoff Khabib. It's one of those things. Just a tough spot. And I'm changing the psychology of this question to you guys. The question I'm here to ask today: do you want the best fighter in the world to be the champion of the world? Do you? Or do you want the most interesting guy to be your champion? And any of you that have already answered that, like in the snap of a finger, you're wrong. Because you're going to need to sit and ponder that. We believe that the champion is the best guy. We also believe that we want whoever the best guy is to be champion. Is that true? Because you're going to be getting interviews with champions. If this guy has nothing to say, do you want to see his interview? You're going to show up to weigh-ins to watch guys face off that are going to do something interesting. And now you're going to be forced to see this guy at the conclusion of each night. The marquee name is going to be who the champion is. The post-fight interview is going to be conducted with the champion. Sports Center is going to put on the champion. So if that's not the guy that you find most interesting, do you want him in those spots? If you have an uninteresting guy on top of the bill, you're now watching what you're used to having, a full room full of energy. Your friends are screaming. Everybody's fired up. You've been tailgating for 5 hours, and all of a sudden, it's not. The energy's gone. It's a very tough and peculiar position. It's one that I've never considered, so I'm not here to influence you. I'm here to have this discussion with you. Do you want the best fighter to be the champion? Just like you have in the NCAA, just like you have the playoffs in other major sports, just like you have in the coveted games of the Olympiad? Or do you want the guy that you're most interested in watching to be the one that closes out the night? I cannot imagine anybody is good enough or would risk looking foolish enough to come out on television and tell the world that Islam is not the #1 contender. I mean, that'd have to be a room full of people. Everybody say, hey, I don't want to do it. You're literally going to have to draw straws and nobody wants to do it. You look like a fool. What would you possibly? Of course Islam's the #1 contender, which means Islam is one victory away. And apparently he's pretty good at getting victories. He's one victory away from being the champion, which means he's the marquee guy, which means his job and on his shoulders is what they will fill up a house moving forward. He is the guy that when you turn on ESPN, you're going to hear from. He is the guy, if you go to a press conference or you go away in, that you want to go there. Is that who he is for you? I think he can get there, by the way. And I don't think Islam did anything wrong. Islam did it the way I would do it. He did it the way I did do it. He put somebody in front of him, but it's very hard to ever overtake that person. It's very hard to not be a knockoff to that person. It's just a hard spot. One thing that Islam does not do, and as much as you'd like to say, well, Islam did everything right, look at where he is, he's going to be in the main event title fight. Okay. But he could have got there 3 years ago if he did things different. What are those things? Well, one thing that Islam does is he keeps on talking about the title fight, title shot, and he keeps on talking about the title. He is not talking about an opponent. And I think that's what slowed him down. If you were to look no further than what we're getting ready to see this weekend, George Masvidal and Colby Covington will be the biggest fight of 2022. Now, of course, I don't have a crystal ball and something great could pop up. International Fight Week is the one Dana tries to make the biggest of the year. And then we still got 7, 8, 9 months aside from that. But it will be the biggest at this point of the year. And I just don't want you to argue for me. Well, Chael, it's Q1 right now. I understand that, but the heavyweight's already fought. The most perennial division has already gone at it. Izzy Adesanya, who had the live gate record of 57, has already fought this year. I am proclaiming for you right now, these two are going to beat it. George Masvidal has not won a fight in years. Colby Covington did not win his last fight. I bring that to you because everybody wants to talk about, well, this guy won 15 fights and this is the most interesting and he's the champion of blah, blah. Those are resumes. Resumes haven't sold in a period of time. You get a resume down at the YMCA. You get it at the local bingo hall. You get it at the Boys and Girls Club. Resumes. They care about what's the story. That's the one part that Islam leaves out. Now, again, I think Islam, I don't know Islam, but I know Khabib, and I think Islam does it because he's a nice, polite person. So I'm giving a bump to a guy who earned everything he's got the hard way, who also happens to be a gentleman. That's not fair, but it doesn't mean I'm wrong. It does not mean that I'm wrong. And one of the problems with naming a number one contender when the title fight is still out there, it has to make a difference who the winner of that fight is. It has to. We've only seen this happen, this is off the top of my head, but we've only seen this happen one other time. Francis Ngannou knocked out Rosenstrike. Dana made Francis the number one contender that night. Still 2 months down the road was the heavyweight championship to be contested that Francis was going to be the contender for, between Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier. So it put Francis out for a period of time. It was meant to be a nice thing. It ended up having a byproduct to it. And in addition to that, what do I want to see Francis fight one of those guys for? Just because they happen to win? Does he have a problem with one of them? Does he have a problem with both of them? Does he have no problem at all and this is about the belt? I mean, that's amateur. That's what the NCAAs are for. That's what the Olympics are for. We're just out there collecting hardware. This is prize fighting. Biggest fight of the year. It's got no belt. It's coming up this Saturday. Biggest fight of the year. The only thing they have in common is they haven't won a fight between them in a period of time. These are two studs. I'm trying to point out my point to you that nothing drives you up the card more than the story. That is what moves this business. So then when you're in Islam's spot, what do you do? Well, at this point, he doesn't have to do anything. He took way too long to get here. That is the punishment. Now he doesn't have to do anything. So now he doesn't have to get anything going with Tony. I apologize, with Oliveira. He doesn't have to get anything going with Gaethje. He gets to just sit back and whoever the winner is, we're going to sign a bout agreement and go fight to see who's better at the universal rules of the mixed martial arts. Like, that's a tough sell. I'm gonna bring my little cage skills, and you bring your little cage skills under the free format fighting systems, and one of us is gonna be better at it than the other one. That's what this is about. I'm gonna need more than that. But there's a litmus test. Does the beef come before the bout agreement, or does the beef come after the bout agreement? One is manufactured and one isn't. If you're going at a guy and then they try to make the fight, boom, we got a real grudge here. If you get a random phone call and somebody's going to slide a contract over to you, you're going to sign and date the bottom of, any heat you have after that is something called manufacture, which we see right through. We don't want that. So if you're going to have Islam, who looks like he's going to be the world champion, I did not know Islam was as good as, and I knew he was good. I did not know he was this good. Nobody throws Bobby Green down on the first attempt. Nobody keeps Bobby Green down after the first attempt. Nobody mounts Bobby Green inside of 2 minutes. Nobody gets rid of Bobby Green inside of a round. It just doesn't happen. But it did. So we got a guy who's really good. There was fictional odds that were released earlier today. I can't remember who was in which direction, but Islam was a 3-1 over either Gaethje or Oliveira, and he was a 2-1 over the other. So it looks as though, by the evidence that we have, that Islam's about to be your world champion. I'm going to ask you the same question again. Do you want him to be?